Hello there. This is Mike, Dad, and I'm continuing on. Dad, I want to hear your story. And we are finishing up the section on parents and grandparents. So, actually, this next section for parents and grandparents is going to be extremely short because the first question is: did you ever meet your great grandparents on either side of your family? And if yes, what were they like? So, on my mother's side, no. I don't remember any great grandparents on my mother's side. On my father's side, and I'll show you this photo right here, I do have some memories of my great grandfather. My great grandmother, like I can barely remember him, but my great grandfather, I have a memory of him sitting down eating. Very random, right? But this photo is called the Generations photo. So sitting there is my great grandfather, and then to the left or right, I'm not sure how it. Anyway, you'll see it. Is my grandfather, and then my father, and then me. So that's pretty much it for what I remember of my great grandparents. And then it says, what other individuals had a major role in helping you grow up? And I really can't think of anybody significant. I mean, I could name like maybe some teachers or like a priest or, just people in my life growing up, but nobody of super significance. So now we're going to move to the next section, and this is siblings. So this should be fun. So, first question: are you an only child or do you have siblings? Well, I am not an only child. I'm one of three, and I have an older sister and a younger sister. And the next question: are you the oldest, middle, or youngest? Well, I just said I'm the middle of three. So list your siblings' names in order of their ages. Make sure to include yourself. So my older sister is Tammy, and this is October 29th of 2025. So as of this date, my older sister Tammy is 59 years old, and she is 17 months older than I am. So I am 58, Tammy is 59, and she's 17 months older. And then my younger sister Anne Marie is 56, and she is 15 months younger. So depending on the month, we line up. So Anne Marie, her birthday is in January, so she'll turn 57. So it'll be 57, 58, 59. And then I think in April, I think that's my sister's birthday. Tammy's birthday. She'll turn 60, and then I will catch up when I turn 59 and so forth. So 17 months older, 15 months younger. I'm right in the middle. Which of your siblings were you the closest with growing up? And I said, Anne Marie. I said, just because we were a little bit closer in age. I mean, not much. What's another 2 months, right? I said we were closest when we were little kids, but my sister Tammy was never excluded. So it is very possible that from my earliest memories, let's say 4 and 5 years old, I have a few vague memories, and then as I got older, the three of us were always extremely close. If I had to pick, I'd say Anne Marie and I were a little bit closer. Maybe we did more things together. And then as we got into, let's say, middle school and high school, that divide between me and Tammy got greater, and me and Anne Marie got closer. I don't know if Anne Marie or Tammy would say that their relationship with their sister was closer than their brother. I'd be like really nitpicking if I said one relationship was better or closer than the other. And it says, which of your siblings are you the closest with in your adult years? And I would have to say we're all about equal. I don't think I'm closer to Anne Marie or Tammy. They're all very close. So, how would you describe each of your siblings when they were kids? So, Anne Marie was a tomboy, and Tammy was what I would call a girly girl. So, Anne Marie would never wear a dress, and actually, I think in her later life, as an adult, we always look back on our childhood and things that developed us into the people that we are, maybe things that we liked or didn't like. I know that Anne Marie, that was always how do I say, it was a sore spot with her, or it was just something in her life that was difficult, being labeled as that tomboy. Oh wow, look at Anne Marie, she finally wore a dress, or she wore a dress for church, or she wore a dress for a special occasion. I mean, it wasn't who she was. And I guess if people tell you enough, oh, you're a tomboy, oh, look, you wear a dress, it affects you in some way. So that Anne Marie was definitely a tomboy. Tammy was definitely the girly girl. Loved makeup, loved dresses, loved being feminine. And that's, I always remember them just being the two different types of sisters growing up. Tammy could not. Oh yeah. So Anne Marie never wore a dress. Tammy could not be more feminine. In high school, I would say Tammy was Miss Popularity. She was up for Homecoming Queen. She didn't win, but she was up for Homecoming Queen. I was actually her escort. Anne Marie was not Miss Popularity. Tammy was into musical theater. She was into musicals. She would love to perform. Anne Marie was behind the scenes, help building the stage or building the sets and stuff like that. So two totally different personalities growing up. How would you describe each of your siblings as adults? Anne Marie and Tammy, I would say, are both loving mothers and wives, right? They have both completely embraced the role of and the responsibility of being a mother. I think both of them are awesome, awesome mothers. And they're doting wives. I mean, Tammy loves her husband Nick. Anne Marie loves her husband Rob. And I think, yeah, they epitomize what it is to be a Christian woman, a Christian mother, and a Christian wife. And I think they're fantastic at it. They're both extremely strong in their faith. They love Jesus. They love the church, and it shows. It shows in how they see the world. And so, yeah, both strong women of faith. Anne Marie stands out as being intense. It's often a word that has been associated with Anne Marie, and you say, well, how is she intense? Well, you have to experience her to know it. But when you meet her, she's not flippant in, oh, hi, how are you? Oh, I'd love to hear about you, and I'd love to hear about your life, blah blah blah. She doesn't say that willy nilly. She's like, I would love to know who you are and tell me all about yourself and tell me about what's going on with you. I mean, she's like that. She's passionate about getting to know somebody, and it falls under this label of Anne Marie is intense. Not intense in a bad way, intense in a good way. Okay, moving on. In the following pages, share some favorite memories of each of your siblings. If you're an only child, feel free to share memories of close friends or cousins. So I could probably just fill up pages and pages and pages of stories of my childhood with my sisters. So in just these next few pages, in no particular order, these are just memories that came to me, and in the true form of being a raconteur, I will tell you all about them. So Tammy, shaving cream shaving cream as whipped cream. I don't know. My parents had gone out for the night on a date or just went someplace, and we were probably middle school, maybe. And Tammy thought it would be funny to come out of the kitchen with a bowl of shaving cream. And she was like playing with it with a spoon. And she's like, look what I got. I got whipped cream. And I'm like, oh, can I have some? She goes, oh, you want some? Sure. So she took a big dollop of the shaving cream and handed it to me. And immediately realized that it was not whipped cream. It was shaving cream. Now, rather than just say, oh, that's disgusting, I can't believe you gave me shaving cream, I decided to play it up, and I like started to choke and to gag, and I really like went into full acting mode. like this was the most horrible thing, like I just ate poison. And of course her reaction was priceless. It was exactly what I wanted. She's like, "Oh, Michael, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. I will never do this again. Oh, I'm so sorry." And she's, fawning on over me as I'm running into the kitchen to rinse my mouth. Of course I played it up. It wasn't that bad, but I made her feel bad, and of course that at the time it made me feel good. Tammy learning to drive the station wagon and getting it stuck. So I'm not sure, when Tammy was 16, I guess 16, and you get your learner's permit. My parents owned, it was an early 80s station wagon. You could probably Google it. If you've ever watched the movie Family Vacation, they are driving this station wagon. It's a huge vehicle. It was like a boat. It was so big. And that was the vehicle that Tammy learned to drive on. And when she finally got her license, that was freedom, right? Any young person who finally gets their driver's license has freedom. So she went out with her friends, and according to her, she was dropping somebody off at their house. And when she backed up in their driveway to, turn around and leave, she drove off the edge of a retaining wall, and boom, both rear tires went off the edge of the retaining wall and got the car stuck. So the following day, my dad and I had to go to this person's house, and we're using like jacks and stuff to jack up the back of the vehicle to get it up off of this retaining wall. And I just remember, and it was funny because I think Tammy had said, "Oh yeah, Dad, it was just me in the car, and I accidentally was dark out, so I accidentally backed over and went over the edge of the retaining wall." But later in life, we found that like she had a case of beer in the car, and there was like 12 kids in the car because they were either coming back from a party or going to a party, and they had to like ditch the beer. They had to get rid of it so they didn't get caught with it. The truth always comes out. Let me see. As a baby, Tammy would do everything for me. Now, I don't remember this, but this is a story that my mother would tell me all the time. So, as I said, we were very close. So, when I was a toddler, Tammy was a little bit older, and she would want to do everything for me. She would literally speak for me. And, Mom, Michael wants this. Mom, Michael wants that. Mom, Michael's this. Michael's that. And my mother would say, "Tammy, let your brother do it for himself, right? Let your brother do it for himself." Tammy was always the overprotective big sister of me. I mean, middle school, high school. If you've ever talked to Tammy, ask her about me being bullied in high school and what she did to a bully. I will leave that story for her to tell. But Tammy was always the very overprotective big sister. Oh gosh, this is a story that came to mind. It's not a good story, but it's just a story. So, embarrassing her friends about her clothes. So, as I had told you, my older sister was very much a girly girl. She was Miss Popularity. She was always hanging out with the popular kids in school, and she always wanted to be very popular. So she was a junior in high school, and I was a freshman. And I remember I'm sitting in the living room reading a book or a magazine or something, and Tammy came home from after school with two of her friends, Danielle Duddy and some other kid. I don't remember who it was. But they came over to the house, and she ran upstairs. Immediately after they came in the house, she ran upstairs. And her two friends, who were very popular, very rich, came into the living room. And I'm like, "Hey, I think I knew their names, but I didn't really know them that well." And I said, "What are you guys doing? Where's Tammy?" And they said, "Oh, she ran upstairs. She wanted to show us this leather skirt that she bought." Now, little context, my parents were not wealthy. We did not have a lot of money. We were certainly not poor, but we didn't have a lot. And anything that we did have, we thought it was a big deal. And my parents, shopping for clothes or new clothes or any type of shopping, they always looked for a bargain. So there was a place in in and around Newton. I think it was Springdale, the Springdale Farmers Market. It was a farmers market. It was like a bazaar where people would sell clothes, and I don't know, no idea where they got them, but anyway, we would do shopping at the Springdale Farmers Market because you could get a good deal there. And I know that Tammy bought some leather skirt at the farmers market. Well, these two teenagers are in my living room saying that Tammy wants to show us this skirt, and I'm like, oh, well, she did not buy. What is she telling you, that she bought that at Saks Fifth Avenue and it's this really beautiful leather skirt? No, she got that at the farmer's market. And they start laughing and they're like, "Oh, this is great!" Like they're gonna tease Tammy that she is playing the role of, "Oh, look what I bought! I bought this, at Bloomingdale's or Saks Fifth Avenue, or I bought this someplace really expensive." When really she got it at the farmers market, and they were laughing and they're like, "Oh, this is gonna be a great joke. We're gonna tease her." Well, Tammy came downstairs, tears in her eyes, and she walked up to me in the chair and kicked me in the shin so hard because I was embarrassing her in front of her friends. So I get up, I run into the bathroom that's off the kitchen. They both said to Tammy, "Oh, look, don't worry about it. Your brother's not being very nice." And they left, and I actually locked the door of the bathroom because I was afraid that Tammy was going to get her hands on me and, beat the hell out of me or something. She didn't. She was upset for a while, but eventually it blew over. That was me just being a crappy younger brother to my older sister. Not proud of it, but it's a story and it happened. Okay, so Disney and golf carts and motorboats with boys. Okay, so this story. So my family went to Disney World for the very first time. Actually, I was down there. So we went in October for my 13th birthday. I turned 13, so I was in the seventh grade. I think I was in the seventh grade, maybe eighth grade, seventh grade. When we went down there, and we were down there for a week. We stayed at Camp Wilderness, Fort Wilderness, the campground, because we had a pop-up camper. And there was a day that we didn't go to any of the parks. We just hung around the campsite, and you could rent a golf cart for, I don't know, a couple bucks for an hour or for the day, whatever it was. So me, Tammy, and Anne Marie rented a golf cart, and we spent the hours driving around Fort Wilderness. Now we're like, I'm 13 years old. Anne Marie was. I just turned 12. No, I just turned 13. So Anne Marie was like 11, and we're driving around, these dirt paths and in and around the campground. We had a ball. We had a ball. We probably had more fun driving the golf cart around than we did walking around the Magic Kingdom. So there was that. And then back in the day, they used to have these two-seater motorboats that you could rent, and you could ride them around Lake Buena Vista. It's like the lake that goes between the Magic Kingdom and Epcot. Those were the only two parks that they had at the time. They didn't have any other parks. So Magic Kingdom and Epcot, and you could ride them around the lake, and the ferry that would take you from different parks or different hotels, you would like ride behind them, and you would jump the waves with these speedboats. It was so fun. And Tammy, so if I just turned 13, she was 14. And, Tammy was a very beautiful young lady. And the young men were always enamored with her. So one day, Tammy and Anne Marie go, "Hey, Michael, what do you want to do today?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to go do this, whatever." And they said, "Well, we're gonna go down and see if we can get on the motorboat." So I'm like, "Okay." So they went down to the marina where these motorboats were, and one of the young men who was enamored with Tammy said, "Oh, you and your sister want to just take these boats out? Go ahead. You don't have to pay for them, and you can take them out as long as you need." So I was like, I can't believe I missed out on being able to ride these boats for the entire day. Well, it turns out the following day we did it again, and this time I went with them. So we got to ride these motorboats for hours just because some young man thought Tammy was cute, and he was like, trying to be all chummy with Tammy. So that's a really fun story. And then no, I have two more. So, okay, movie theater with Tammy. So, set the stage. It's 1983, and the movie Psycho 2 comes out in 1983. And Tammy worked at the movie theater and the Newton Theater, and she could get me in for free. So this movie came out. I wanted to see it. I go down to the theater, and Tammy gets me in. And I sit in the very back row of the movie theater. So it was, if you'd have to see the theater. It's not like today where you walk in towards the front and then you'd usually like walk up the steps to the back. The steps were in the back. So you'd walk up the steps and you were at the very end, the very last row, and then you could walk down towards the screen. So I sat in the very last seat, and the railing was right behind me. So here I am sitting in the theater watching Psycho 2, and I'm going to show you the scene of what happened. Okay, so here's the scene, and then I'm going to come back. Okay, so in that scene, the woman's in the basement and she turns around and she sees the person with the knife. Just as the knife is coming down and it stabs the woman in the throat, Tammy, who's standing behind me, grabs the top of my head. When I tell you I screamed so loud that the entire theater turned around to look at what happened because I screamed so loud. That's my sister for you. And the last memory I have about that childhood, adolescence, teenage years is sending Tammy off to college. So Tammy, graduates high school and she goes to Becker Junior College in Worcester, Massachusetts. So me and mom and dad and Tammy and Anne Marie, we all pile in the car and got the roof rack on and all of Tammy's stuff, and we drive up to Massachusetts and drop her off to college. And I just remember how upsetting it was because my dad was very, he had a really nice trunk that he made for Tammy to keep her stuff in, and she was all organized, and and she moved into this student housing, which was basically like an old house, and her bedroom she shared with a young woman who, she said what her name was, but she went by Peaches. She said, just call me Peaches. And the girl literally opened up a box and just dumped all of her belongings onto the bed. And, that was it. Like, she lived in that area. I think she took the bus to school, and she really didn't have much. And here's Tammy, all organized, and then this girl Peaches was her roommate. And I just remember how sad and somber everyone was on the drive home because we dropped Tammy off to college. So I'm at 22 minutes, and I'm going to stop here. The next section that was Tammy. Oh, there he goes right there, Anne Marie. So the next section, I'm going to talk about Anne Marie. So, all right, thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed this video, and we will talk again soon, okay? Bye.